Chapter 651. Zhuo Haiyang had hired an A-list celebrity to be his spokesperson, and his fans were extremely powerful. When they found out about the scandal, they were all furious. After all, if the company had a bad reputation, it would have a bad impact on their idol. Therefore, Zhuo Haiyang was scolded quite badly. Ocean Company is trash. Our brother Shan worked so hard to be their spokesperson, but their boss dared to molest underage girls. That's inhumane. That's right. But I heard that Ocean Company's boss is not only perverted, but the source of their products is also not legal. They stole Yuling Wine's wine recipe and maliciously competed with them. Many loyal fans of Yuling Wines have been cursing outside Ocean Company's building every day. Here's a picture. I know about the second floor's secret. Director Bai of Jade Spirit Wines is a very responsible person. The sales of the company's products have always been good. He's a good boss who works hard and works hard. Zhuo Haiyang's wine recipe was stolen from Jade Spirit Wines. You'll know once you try it. The taste is basically the same, but Jade Spirit Wines tastes better. Zhuo Haiyang is a scumbag. He can't sell his own wine, so he steals others. He has been suppressing Yuling Wines just because he found an investment. I feel sorry for CEO Bai for 10 minutes. I advise you not to buy Ocean Company's wine. Although the taste is similar to Yuling Wines, the difference is huge. You'll feel hot and uncomfortable. It's not good for your body. I advise you not to be greedy. If you want to drink good wine, you should buy the authentic Yuling Wines. Drinking too much fake wine could kill you. Is that Yuling Wine's marketing team? Ocean Company's wine is now much more famous than Yuling Wine's. Idiot, is it good to be famous? Fake wine is fake wine. My grandfather and uncles all love Yuling Wines, but because they were greedy, they bought Ocean Company's wine and tasted it. In the end, they couldn't sleep the whole night after drinking it. The taste is the same, but the effect is different. Yuling Wine's nourishment. Drinking wine nourishes the body? I'm shocked. In the post, there were endless arguments and voices. But without a doubt, Yuling Wines became famous because of this. The Ocean Company's advertisement was so big that it could be seen almost everywhere. And because the wine tasted really good, it was quite popular. However, if it was the first time tasting Ocean Company's wine, one would only feel that some parts were lacking or a slight discomfort in the body, but it was not serious, so it would not be discovered. However, if one drank it a few more times, the discomfort would become more obvious. As soon as someone mentioned it in the post, it quickly spread like wildfire outside. What the hell is going on? Zhuo Haiyang, how did you create such a scandal? I'm so disappointed. James sat in his wheelchair and pointed at Zhuo Haiyang as he cursed. Zhuo Haiyang didn't look too good either. He said solemnly, Mr. James, I was also set up. It's all because of that Jing Yunjiao. I only wanted to buy the remaining wine recipes from her, but who knew that she would suddenly seduce me? After I rejected her, she actually made a move on me, and then joined forces with the people from that restaurant, causing the police to not listen to me at all. Also, those photos were taken by the people around Jing Yunjiao, Zhuo Hai said arrogantly. Chapter 652. It was just a post, and he thought it was nothing much. Who knew that after deleting one post after another, more posts would pop up? That was fine, but who knew that the netizens who were still talking about him molesting girls at the start, would suddenly talk about the sea blue alcohol solution? It wasn't the first time that someone said there was something wrong with his liquor. They were just a bunch of stupid people. The liquor tasted the same, so how could there be a problem? Zhuo Haiyang, I didn't spend so much money to advertise Yuling Wines. You'd better settle this quickly. Otherwise, we'll lose a lot of money. James glared at Zhuo Haiyang and said with dissatisfaction. If Pak Yuan hadn't rejected his investment, he wouldn't have chosen Zhuo Haiyang. If he had known that Zhuo Haiyang was so useless, he would have invested the money in a more suitable company. Zhuo Haiyang was in a difficult position, and he was extremely frustrated. I understand, Mr. James. Don't worry, this matter will be resolved. That better be the case. James snorted, and the people behind him pushed him out in his wheelchair. Looking at James' back, Zhuo Haiyang's head was about to explode. He thought for a while, then said to the people beside him, "Contact Jin Yushan and ask him to express his position in a public place. Also, get the public relations department to write a statement. If anyone spreads rumors again, our company will pursue legal action." The staff beside him nodded and quickly got to work. That day, an interview with the popular A-lister, Jin Yushan, appeared on the internet. Jing Yunjiao stared at the person on the screen, deep in thought. This Jin Yushan was very famous. Before endorsing the Ocean Company's products, he had just acted in a few popular idol dramas. He was someone who relied on his looks to make a living. While he was popular, he quickly took on many advertisements, including cars, cosmetics, snacks, and so on. He took the opportunity to make money, so that he wouldn't be able to make money when he was outdated. However, it seemed that this person's management company didn't know how to pick advertisements. The Ocean Company's liquor had just been released, and it was unknown if it had the ability to develop in the long run, but they had already taken on advertisements for him. Now that the Ocean Company's reputation was damaged, it wasn't a good thing for him. As Jing Yunjiao was reading, Xiao Haiqing called. "Yunjiao, the time has come." On the other end of the phone, Xiao Haiqing's voice carried a hint of a smile as she spoke. Jing Yunjiao naturally knew what the timing was. He immediately replied, "Is there a problem with the people you arranged? If the news spreads, the Ocean Company will also send people to investigate. Don't expose yourself. Don't worry, I can still do such a small thing." Xiao Haiqing smiled. She had already found someone to bribe them. She had asked her old friends to bribe them. Even though they were bribed, the people involved had no idea about the whole situation. The wine they were given was indeed a product produced by the Ocean Company. It was just that they had added a little extra. As for the extra, only she and Jing Yunjiao knew about it. Those people were mainly responsible for causing trouble, and the bigger the trouble, the better. James and Zhuo Haiyang had schemed against her and threatened her, so they should have been prepared for her retaliation. After talking to Jing Yunjiao, Xiao Haiqing went straight to the plan. The next morning, 2 more patients were admitted to Serene City Hospital. Both of them had high fevers, their lips were red and swollen, and there were rashes on the surface of their bodies. They looked very serious. That afternoon, another person was admitted to the hospital with the same condition. The next day, another one appeared, another day, 2 patients. The same condition appeared on different people, which immediately attracted the attention of the hospital. They were afraid that it was an epidemic, but after an investigation, they found that the patients had drunk the Ocean Company's ocean blue alcohol before they fell ill. Chapter 653. For the next few days, the people who drank the sea blue liquor were admitted to the hospital one after another. The news spread like wildfire. The hospital was suddenly filled with countless reporters, all of them targeting those few patients. After all, the reputation of the Ocean Company had been getting worse and worse since a few days ago. Netizens had all kinds of opinions, some even specifically drank Yuling wines and the Ocean Company's liquor to compare. Many people felt that the Yuling wine's product made their body feel better after drinking it. However, there was also a group of people who felt that the Ocean Company's reputation was better, so they seemed to have a bigger business and were even more convinced of this brand. Zhuo Haiyang even released a statement a few days ago, saying that the molestation incident was purely a misunderstanding. He even said that if anyone continued to cause trouble, they would be held accountable. This also made it seem like the matter was going to be put to rest. However, no one expected that when everyone thought that this incident would fade from the public eye, the Ocean Company's liquor actually had a problem. "I've always liked drinking and would drink a few glasses every day. In the past, I drank both liquor and beer. Later, I drank the 7-star wine produced by Yuling Wine Company. However, recently, everyone said that the sea blue alcohol solution tasted the same as the 7-star wine and was 20 yuan cheaper. Since I bought a lot, I was greedy and bought a few boxes. I realized that the taste was indeed similar. However, the difference between the 7-star wine and the 7-star wine was that after drinking it, I felt hot and uncomfortable all over and my body turned red. However, it wasn't that serious the first time, so I didn't think too much about it. My situation is similar to his. I drink it every day. Isn't it advertised on TV every day? I thought it was a big brand, but I didn't expect it to be so harmful. That's right. When I fell sick, my family and work matters were all delayed. I've already contacted a lawyer. The ocean company must give me an explanation. After a few days, 10 to 20 patients were all very sure that they had been cheated by the ocean company. When this interview was released, the public was in an uproar. Many people looked back and thought that when they drank the sea blue liquor, it did feel a little different. Although some people like to be cheap, they also knew that cheap things weren't good. So when the ocean company got into trouble, more people were stepped on. Jing Yunjiao looked at the report. When the time was right, he would let Pak Yuan appear in front of the public. After the ocean company's scandal, many people called for Pak Yuan. The public waited for a long time, but Yuling Wines didn't say anything. Now that Pak Yuan finally appeared, he received a lot of attention. In front of the camera, Pak Yuan looked calm. Mr. Bai, I wonder if you've heard about the recent matters regarding the ocean company. Do you agree that the wine produced by that company is exactly the same as Yuling Wines? The reporter asked. Pak Yuan smiled. If I say it's exactly the same, then it should be. I've tasted it a few days ago, so I know. I can't be too direct. I can only say that the brewing process of our products is very complicated, and the requirements for the raw materials are also very high. Especially the 7-star liquor, the age of the herbs and other aspects are limited. There are many imitations of fake wines out there, and those wines definitely can't reach the level of our Yuling Wines. But speaking of which, our Yuling Wines lost a wine recipe before. But that recipe wasn't very important because it was something that was eliminated. People who are prone to excessive heat can't take it. Otherwise, their whole body will feel like it's wrapped by a fire snake, and they won't be able to sleep. Chapter 654. Since Pak Yuan had already appeared, there was no way he would give Zhuo Haiyang a chance to make a comeback. Thus, he continued, but don't worry, although the wine recipe is obsolete, it won't endanger your life. Of course, if you drink too much, it will definitely affect your body's functions. So in the future, when you buy Yuling Wines products, please pay attention to the anti-counterfeit label. If you buy the wrong wine and feel uncomfortable after drinking it, you must stop drinking it. In addition, several of Yuling Wines products contain medicinal ingredients. We are not a company that demands huge profits, so this price is definitely worthy of our conscience. Everyone could hear the hidden meaning in Pak Yuan's words. Yuling Wines' price was worthy of their conscience, which implied that the ocean company had used inferior raw materials to lower the price and maliciously compete with them. The reporters were excited. After writing their articles, they hurriedly sent them out. Sure enough, the click-through rate increased rapidly. At the entrance of the ocean company, many people gathered there with boxes of sea blue alcohol. Some held loudspeakers, some held banners, and some took videos. They pointed at the building and cursed. Unscrupulous profiteers. How dare they sell Yuling Wines' obsolete product to consumers? Refund. Compensate. One after another, it was as if the glass of the building was about to shatter. Zhuo Haiyang hid inside and looked through the window. Seeing the sea of people, he was so angry that his legs trembled. How could this be? How could that wine recipe be Yuling Wines' obsolete trash? He had tasted it before, and it tasted exactly the same. In the room, other than Zhuo Haiyang, James was also in a terrible fix. He estimated the investment to be 300 million, but in reality, he had invested more money in the ocean company. He had bought shares in the company and expanded the company's factory. Although Zhuo Haiyang was still the legal person in charge, now that something had happened, he couldn't escape responsibility. Previously, he had been in the limelight, and orders had been coming in for the past few days. He had expected business to get better, so he had produced a lot of wine in advance. The factory's warehouse was packed with goods, but now, there were endless calls of orders being refunded. That was fine, but these goods were either half paid or not paid at all. They were in big trouble. What the hell is going on? Didn't I tell you to spend money to silence those poisoned people? James said in broken English. Zhuo Haiyang was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. Mr. James, Those people didn't even take any money. Do you think there's something wrong with the wine recipe? Zhuo Haiyang asked again. He couldn't help but suspect this. After all, if this wasn't the case, Pak Yuan wouldn't have said such a thing in front of everyone. Maybe Xiao Haiqing stole the wrong thing, or maybe she did it on purpose. Thinking of this, Zhuo Haiyang shuddered. In his mind, he recalled Xiao Haiqing's face. She was as beautiful as the sun, wild and unruly. She even sent her stepmother to James. Not only that, she even used a new wine recipe in exchange for her stepmother's virginity. Could such a vengeful person really be so obedient? At this time, Zhuo Haiyang's mind was completely messed up by the noise outside, but the things he thought about were the most correct. When James heard this, he also began to have doubts. He asked Zhuo Haiyang to call Xiao Haiqing. The phone rang again and again before Xiao Haiqing's voice could be heard. Chapter 655. Xiao Haiqing's voice carried a hint of laziness. Especially when she sensed Zhuo Haiyang's anxious tone, she revealed a trace of a smile. Xiao Haiqing, what's going on? Why did Pak Yuan say that the wine recipe was discarded? How did you do it? Didn't you say that it was foolproof? Zhuo Haiyang roared. Xiao Haiqing felt uncomfortable with his voice. She put the phone away and rubbed her ears. Then, she said slowly, you only asked me to steal the wine recipe, and I did it. As for whether the wine recipe is real or fake, how would I know? I'm not Jing Yunjiao. I don't have the ability to determine if it's real or fake. Only now did she realize that the wine recipe was fake. Unfortunately, it was too late. Zhuo Haiyang wanted to throw the phone away when he heard that. He gritted his teeth and said, Xiao Haiqing, do you know what you're doing? I said that as long as you do what we ask, you can still live a clean life. Otherwise, you'll lose your reputation. Sure enough, you were lying when you said that you returned all the photos to me. Xiao Haiqing laughed. President Shuo, we're in the same boat. The photos you gave me are the original ones, but not the only ones. The wine recipe I gave you tastes similar, but the effects are different. Isn't this a fair deal? Did he think she was a fool? No matter what she did, the result would be the same. Even if she really betrayed Jing Yunjiao and gave him the real wine recipe, Zhuo Haiyang would never give her all the photos. He and James were insidious people. There was no way to win a deal with such people. Since she couldn't get the photos back, she might as well die together. No matter what, James and Zhuo Haiyang would have a worse life than hers. After Xiao Haiqing finished speaking, Zhuo Haiyang couldn't hold back anymore. He picked up the things on the table and smashed them on the floor. Bitch. If you want to lose your reputation, I'll fulfill your wish. It's up to you if you want to announce it. After all, I won't have a good ending if the photos fall into your hands. Xiao Haiqing's voice was heard again. Then, she hung up on Zhuo Haiyang. Hearing the busy tone, Zhuo Haiyang gritted his teeth and threw his phone out in a perfect arc. Xiao Haiqing put down her phone. Jiang Rong, who was beside her, carefully handed her a peeled apple. Haiqing. About the ocean company. Auntie Jiang, it seems that you still can't forget James. Xiao Haiqing raised her voice and said, but I'm sorry to disappoint you, because James can't even take care of himself. I'm afraid he doesn't have time to reminisce with you. Is James going to collapse? Jiang Rong was slightly disappointed. In fact, she had wanted to look for James these days, but she didn't have the chance. Jiang Rong sighed. I think I heard the other party say something about losing his reputation. Just mind your own business. Xiao Haiqing's gaze turned cold. Jiang Rong immediately shut her mouth. Xiao Haiqing took a bite of the apple and returned to her bedroom. Thinking about the photos, a trace of determination flashed across her face. She had to choose a path to walk down. She could either be like Jiang Rong and be a yes man for something that could be used against her, or she could fight to survive. It was just reputation and rumors. She could just sacrifice herself. Not long after the phone call ended, Zhuo Haiyang angrily posted the photos. He knew that Xiao Haiqing was a student of No. 1 middle school, so he purposely chose the school's forum. After posting the photos, he didn't have time to care about it because the investigators had already come to his door and ordered him to take back all the products he had sold. The loss was huge. Inside Jing Yunjiao's house, the sound of Su Chu frantically knocking on the door could be heard. When Jing Yunjiao opened the door, she saw Su Chu hugging her laptop and shouting anxiously, "Biaojia, look at these photos, it's Haiqing." Chapter 656. Jing Yunjiao looked at the computer in Su Chu's hand. When his gaze fell, his breathing seemed to stop for a moment. There were a few photos in the post. The photos were very clear, and it was obvious that the female lead was Xiao Haiqing. On the night of Xiao Haiqing's accident, she was the one who brought her back. Therefore, she remembered Xiao Haiqing's state and the clothes she was wearing. Therefore, there was no doubt that the photos were of what happened at Shuo Haiyang's apartment that day. "I can't open it now." The two of them were looking at it when they realized that there was an error on the web page. Su Chu was so anxious that she was about to cry. Someone must have deleted it, but there were a lot of comments just now. Someone must have taken a screenshot of the photos. In the photos, Xiao Haiqing was wearing a gown, but she looked very embarrassed. There was even a mosaic of a man lying on top of her. Their actions were intimate, and because of the angle, outsiders would not think that Xiao Haiqing was not willing. Jing Yunjiao was also flustered. He recalled Xiao Haiqing's recent actions and suddenly had a feeling that she had already guessed it. He quickly called Xiao Haiqing, but the phone was turned off. He could not get through at all. "I'll go out and find someone." Jing Yunjiao picked up his coat and prepared to go out. Xiao Haiqing was not the kind of person who would feel sorry for herself. She was not worried that she would take things too hard, but at this time, if she was not by her side, she would not feel at ease. When Su Chu heard this, she was too lazy to care about the computer in her hand. "I'll go with you." Jing Yunjiao glanced at her and nodded. At this time, Jiang Rong's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and carefully said to Xiao Haiqing, "Haiqing, it seems to be your class teacher, hang up." Xiao Haiqing said coldly. She had seen those photos before. No matter the angle or the scene, they were all perfect. Therefore, no matter how she explained to others, no one would believe that she was forced. Since she knew that no one would believe her, why should she waste her breath? The post with the very clear photo had already been deleted, but in the blink of an eye, someone enthusiastically posted the edited photo again. In this school forum, besides the students, there were also many teachers and parents. Therefore, those comments stood on the moral high ground, criticizing her as a bad student who did not know how to behave. Outsiders were not fools. As long as they saw it, they would know that the house in the photo was slightly luxurious. Of course, some people would imagine that she was a materialistic girl. Jiang Rong, who was standing at the side, was also shocked when she saw those posts. However, in the next second, a trace of joy appeared in his heart. It turned out that she wasn't the only one who had been photographed. Xiao Haiqing had also been exposed. It seemed that it had something to do with the phone call she had received earlier. "Auntie Jiang, you seem to be quite happy, but there's something that makes you even happier that I haven't told you. That is, Auntie, you're pregnant." Xiao Haiqing smiled coldly, her eyes full of disdain. As soon as he said that, the things in Jiang Rong's hands fell to the ground. "What did you say?" His voice instantly became high-pitched, incomparably sharp. "Pregnant? Why didn't she know? I'll soon have a younger brother or sister. This is a happy thing, Auntie Jiang, don't you think so?" Xiao Haiqing said again. "Haiqing, that's impossible. How could you know that I'm pregnant? Something that even I don't know. Did Jing Yunjiao say it?" Chapter 657. Shock flashed through Jiang Rong's eyes. She hadn't seen a doctor recently, nor did she buy anything for testing, nor did she show any signs of pregnancy. The only way to know that she was pregnant should be when Xiao Haiqing took her pulse. "That's right, I trust her medical skills. The child is more than a month old now." Xiao Haiqing smiled. Her expression was cold and chilling. Jiang Rong's heart trembled violently, and she didn't know what to do. Because she was pregnant, Xiao Haiqing didn't let her return to Xiao Daoan's side. More than a month, so it was hard to say whether the child was Xiao Daoan's or James's. "Why did you only tell me now?" You already knew. Auntie Jiang, if I told you that you were pregnant, you would go to James immediately, right? You can't get what you want from my father. With this child, you can ask James to give you a future, but do you think I'll let you go? As for now, James can't even take care of himself. He invested so much money in the ocean company, and now he's lost everything. So even if you find him, it's useless. Xiao Haiqing's attitude was cold. You. Xiao Haiqing, why are you so vicious? What do you want me to do? Jiang Rong roared, looking confused. I have to abort this child. Then go ahead and abort it. As long as the child is gone, the things in my hands will be posted online. Anyway, I've already embarrassed myself, so it's good to have someone to accompany me, don't you think? Xiao Haiqing smiled faintly. At this moment, the doorbell rang. Xiao Haiqing pursed her lips and smiled. She got up and opened the door. Jiang Rong stood there stiffly as if she was struck by lightning. Like Xiao Haiqing? She definitely wouldn't. She saw a little bit of the comments on the internet just now. The whole article was saying that Xiao Haiqing was promiscuous. She didn't want to be the target of others' insult. But if that was the case, how could she give birth to the child? Jiang Rong touched her belly, her mood extremely complicated. At this moment, Jing Yunjiao walked in and stared at Xiao Haiqing. You knew that they had something on you? Why didn't you tell me? Yunjiao, I don't want you to worry. Xiao Haiqing smiled and dragged her into the house. It's okay. You see, I don't care. Doesn't matter. Xiao Haiqing, do you even have a brain? Do you know what will happen if those things get out? Number 1 middle school will not keep you. Forget about the demerits, you will definitely be expelled. What are you going to do then? Count on Xiao Daoan? Jing Yunjiao was extremely furious. That was not the main point. What she cared about was that Xiao Haiqing might be judged by others for the rest of her life. Look at you. Things are already like this. It's useless for you to yell at me. Xiao Haiqing looked like a little wife. Yunjiao, the thing is in their hands. What can we do to get it back? Should he use force? Just like how you broke into the He family? That's too unrealistic. He can make as many copies of these things as he wants. I can hide for a while, but I can't hide forever. Sooner or later, I will have to face it. After Xiao Haiqing finished speaking, she raised her hand and handed Xiao Haiqing a glass of water. Drink some water and calm down. What I want to do most now is to kill James and Zhuo Haiyang. Jing Yunjiao rubbed the space between her eyebrows and drank the glass of water in one gulp. Hurting the enemy by 1,000 but hurting yourself by 800. Xiao Haiqing, you're really stupid. Jing Yunjiao took a deep breath and squeezed out a sentence. Chapter 658. Ever since her rebirth, she had always prioritized herself. She could hurt others, but she would never put herself in harm's way. She knew that it wasn't easy for her to be reborn, and she didn't want to be worthless like her previous life. Ever since she met Xiao Haiqing, she had been thinking about Xiao Haiqing's past. However, she was in prison at that time, so she didn't know much about it. She couldn't help Xiao Haiqing avoid trouble in advance. She could only teach her martial arts and other things suitable for her, hoping that she would become better. She didn't expect her to be so ruthless. She wouldn't even say a word to her at a time like this. Haiqing, can we help you explain to the director? Su Chu tugged at Xiao Haiqing's clothes. Xiao Haiqing smiled. You may believe me, but others might not. All right, you don't have to worry about me. No matter what they say, I won't let myself suffer. Jing Yunjiao didn't want to talk to her anymore. After thinking about it, Jing Yunjiao found Li Xiaoyun. On the phone, Jing Yunjiao's emotions fluctuated. He pursed his lips and said, Li Xiaoyun, do you know any hackers? Yes. Li Xiaoyun's voice was steady. Jing Yunjiao opened his mouth and said, does he accept any business? I don't care how much it costs. I hope he can help. Li Xiaoyun was silent for a moment. Go on. Hack number 1 middle school's forum. Delete all the negative comments about Xiao Haiqing. Can you do it? Jing Yunjiao asked again. Jing Yunzhao's heart was beating fast. Yes. Li Xiaoyun said concisely. Jing Yunzhao heaved a sigh of relief. Talk to him about the price. I'll pay. Thank you. There's no need for money. We'll talk about it after the matter is settled. Li Xiaoyun was tactful. Jing Yunzhao was at his peak right now. He didn't want to be suspected of taking advantage of him. Jing Yunzhao smiled bitterly. Do as you wish. I'll accept any request. After that, Jing Yunzhao was speechless and hung up the phone. She was not very willing to let Li Xiaoyun help, but Li Xiaoyun made her feel more at ease. If she let Pak Yuan find a hacker with good skills, it would be fine, but she always felt that if Li Xiaoyun found someone, it would be more foolproof. Li Xiaoyun was a person who had high requirements for people and things. He was never willing to compromise, so his vision was also extremely high. Yunzhao, why bother? Indeed, it can be completely deleted, but many people have already seen it. Other people's memories can't be deleted, Xiao Haiqing said. Jing Yunzhao glared at her angrily and painfully. You can't keep this thing for even a second longer. I've seen stupid people, but I've never seen someone as stupid as you. Did the form teacher call you just now? The director will definitely call you when you go to school tomorrow morning. I'll go with you then, Jing Yunzhao said. Why? Are you going to break the director's desk with a kick and threaten him? Xiao Haiqing was still in the mood to joke around. That's right. I'm threatening him, Jing Yunzhao admitted directly. When he nodded, Su Chu and Xiao Haiqing's eyes widened. Seeing her exploding with anger, the two of them were terrified. Xiao Haiqing laughed dryly, but when she laughed, she was glared at by Jing Yunzhao. She immediately pouted and didn't say anything. Zhuo Haiyang and James were in a terrible fix, and Jing Yunzhao was in a similar mood. The next morning, Jing Yunzhao waited for Xiao Haiqing to go to school together. When he stepped through the school gates, he saw the surrounding boys and girls subconsciously moving to the side and pointing at him. Sure enough, as soon as he reached class, the class monitor, Qi Daong, came to pass a message saying that the director was looking for him. Chapter 659. Xiao Haiqing looked helpless. She didn't seem to care about anything. She was the focus of everyone's gossip, but she acted as if she didn't know anything. She was so calm that people couldn't accept it. However, outsiders didn't know how long Xiao Haiqing had been mentally preparing herself for this. Jing Yunzhao accompanied Xiao Haiqing with a serious face. Yunzhao, am I your little chick? You really look like a fighting cock. Xiao Haiqing laughed in Jing Yunzhao's ear. How can you still laugh? Jing Yunzhao looked at her and was speechless. In fact, she would rather Xiao Haiqing vent her anger on the people around her, but her temperament had completely changed. She was no longer like before, where she would say whatever she wanted to say, or get physical with someone at the slightest disagreement. She was straightforward. Now, she was just like Jiang Rong. No matter when, she would smile gently and beautifully. She would hide her thorns and hurt herself before hurting others. I just don't want you to be so hostile. I know it's my fault for not telling you in advance. You're angry with me, but I don't want you to worry. However, I promise that it won't be like this in the future. Xiao Haiqing had a fawning look on her face. Little chick, let's deal with the eagle inside first. Jing Yunzhao sighed. She looked at the dean's office and said that. Then, she knocked on the door and entered. The dean looked at Jing Yunzhao and was stunned. I only asked Xiao Haiqing to come. Why are you here too? Xiao Haiqing looked at Jing Yunzhao suspiciously. She was afraid that she would really smash the dean's desk. Dean, I have a good relationship with Haiqing. I don't want you to deal with her without knowing anything, so I came to take a look. Jing Yunzhao's attitude at this moment was still considered friendly. The dean cherished Jing Yunzhao a little more. After all, she represented a lot of number 1 middle school's reputation. Then you can sit by the side. He adjusted his glasses and looked at Xiao Haiqing. You know about the post on the forum, right? Xiao Haiqing nodded, but then said, but I heard that the forum is now paralyzed, so I don't know the current situation. The corner of the dean's mouth twitched. Someone hacked the school forum. Did you find someone to do this? Before Xiao Haiqing could answer, Jing Yunjiao said, you don't have to ask. I did it. The director's hand that was holding the pen paused. Why? I just don't want anyone to continue tarnishing the reputation of Haiqing and the school. Director, you should have seen the forum, so you should know how vicious those people are. I can't stop them one by one, so I can only ask for help. Jing Yunjiao didn't hide anything. Now that the forum was hacked at this critical moment, most people would suspect Xiao Haiqing, so there was nothing to hide. I'll talk to you about the forum in private later. The corner of the dean's mouth twitched. The corner of the director's mouth twitched. He said, Xiao Haiqing, many people saw the posts you posted yesterday. What's going on? You're still young, and your grades aren't bad. You have a bright future ahead of you. How could you? Director, I was sent to that house by my father. I was a little drunk at the time, so I fell into their trap. And the truth is that I didn't do anything to violate my innocence. I just made them unhappy, so they uploaded the post. Whether you believe it or not, it's true. Xiao Haiqing's attitude became more serious. She didn't want to explain, but seeing how hardworking Jing Yunjiao was, she couldn't force herself to be brave. Chapter 660. When Xiao Haiqing said this, the director's brows immediately furrowed. So you were forced to do it? The director asked again. Xiao Haiqing nodded. A trace of hesitation appeared on the director's face, but he still said, but that photo looks. Xiao Haiqing, you should know that even an upright official can't resolve a family dispute. When your father forced you, you should have taken some measures to resist. Now that things have become like this, our school has to give the other parents an explanation. Although Xiao Haiqing's matter had nothing to do with others, some people were not the kind of people who would settle things peacefully. They would think that Xiao Haiqing would lead the students astray and have a bad influence. If they didn't deal with it, those parents would not let it go. If Xiao Haiqing's appearance in the photo was not obedience but resistance, then they could still put Xiao Haiqing in the perspective of a victim. If her father was willing to come forward and negotiate, the school could find a suitable excuse to keep her. But the current situation was that they couldn't contact her parents. Because the school had been contacting Xiao Haiqing's stepmother, the teachers also said that the stepmother was not a person who could solve problems, so they called the Xiao family's landline. Mr. Xiao did answer the phone, but after listening to the teachers, he said that this was a child's private matter and that the school didn't need to intervene. They talked until their mouths were dry, but the other party only said that the photo was a misunderstanding. As for the rest, he didn't explain at all. He even said that if the school couldn't keep her, it didn't matter if she was expelled. He would transfer her to another school. Such a parent was very rare, and it was an eye-opener for them. Xiao Haiqing was silent, only to hear the director say, Xiao Haiqing, I think you should drop out of school. Xiao Haiqing's beautiful eyes didn't show any disappointment. She had already expected this. Director, if Xiao Haiqing drops out of school, I will transfer to another school, Jing Yunjiao said. The director's eyelids twitched. Jing Yunjiao, this is not the time for jokes, I'm not joking. Haiqing was harmed because of me. Since there's nothing we can do now, we can only work together. If she drops out of school, I'll follow her, Jing Yunjiao said directly. Jing Yunjiao had a tough personality. It wasn't the first time the director knew about it. Therefore, when he heard her say that, he felt a headache coming on. Based on Jing Yunjiao's grades, it was almost certain that she would be admitted to a key university in the future. She might even be able to fight for the title of the top scholar. In a few months, it would be the college entrance examination. He was worried that she would be distracted, but she actually said that she wanted to transfer schools. Although the school was an educational base, the most important thing was the enrollment rate and reputation. If they sent Jing Yunjiao, a good student, to another school, they would really vomit to death. Jing Yunjiao, Dean, actually, you can reconsider. Even though the photos at the time were clear, but with how advanced digital technology is now, it's easy to fake a photo. Haiqing did enter that room at the time, but in the end, he didn't do anything. The angles of these photos were carefully chosen. They were obviously done to make her unable to raise her head. If you really let her drop out of school, then it's the same as admitting to it, Jing Yunjiao said. I know that this matter has indeed damaged the school's reputation, but if you deny it, it would be better for the school and Hai Qing. I don't think you want to ruin Hai Qing's reputation because of a photo that doesn't have much credibility, right? Chapter 661. Jing Yunjiao clenched his fists and stared at the director in front of him. Jing Yunjiao, you want the school to lie? The director was a little surprised. In his eyes, Jing Yunjiao was an extremely stubborn and righteous person. His attitude of denying the photos was very different from his usual self. If a lie can save a person's future, then it should exist. Jing Yunjiao didn't hesitate and said, if you can't accept it, there's another option. Let Hai Qing study at home for the time being. She's still a student of this school, but she has to make it clear to the public. It's just to make the parents feel at ease. That's why we let her rest until the truth is out. As long as I can find evidence to prove that Xiao Haiqing wasn't a willing victim, she can come back at any time, Jing Yunjiao said after thinking for a while. However, when he said this, the two of them were a little stunned. Even Xiao Haiqing was confused. Suitable evidence. This matter was already set in stone. How could Jing Yunjiao not know? Moreover, the photos were taken by the other party. The complete video couldn't have been left behind. How could he prove that she wasn't a willing victim? Xiao Haiqing was completely confused. The director was also a little confused, but after thinking for a while, he said, you want time? Okay, 2 weeks. If this matter can't be explained clearly, I'll suggest to the school leaders to let her study at home before the exams. But then, we can't say that she's innocent. She'll have to come out and reflect. Jing Yunjiao nodded. No problem. The two of them left the office. Jing Yunjiao's tense nerves relaxed a little. Yunjiao, I actually have a copy of those photos, but all of them are unfavorable to me. The ones that are unfavorable to James have already been deleted. Xiao Haiqing was extremely confused. Jing Yunjiao sighed. It can be faked, can't it? Haiqing, if I were you, when I found out that the other party had evidence against me, I wouldn't want to die together with them. Jing Yunjiao looked at her with a cold gaze. I would just let them die. So, don't do such a stupid thing next time. You still haven't told me. Don't tell me it's a reshoot. Xiao Haiqing suddenly had an idea. What's wrong with that? Didn't they censor James' face in the photo? If they can fight, so can we. Zhuo Haiyang is now responsible for the alcohol poisoning. We can go to the Zhuo residence and do whatever we want. It's the same scene and the same people. What's so hard about making a few pictures? As for the date on the paper, it's not a problem. Just find an expert retoucher to do it, Jing Yunjiao said. Xiao Haiqing swallowed her saliva. She felt that Jing Yunjiao's little universe seemed to have exploded at this moment. His body seemed to be surrounded by a black aura, and when he spoke, it made people feel a chill run down their backs. After the photos are out, we need to let the school leaders have a look. They aren't experts who can distinguish between real and fake photos. It's enough that they know you're innocent. Then, we'll find 2 photos that aren't too obvious and show them to the public. Even if someone finds out that they're fake, it'll be useless because most people only believe what they see with their own eyes. Jing Yunjiao's eyes flashed with a hint of murderous intent. The two of them walked back to the classroom side by side. After listening to Jing Yunjiao's words, Xiao Haiqing felt that she was too involved to see the situation clearly. She felt that she had almost been humiliated, so all she could think about was revenge. Speaking of black-bellied, she was much worse than Jing Yunjiao. Chapter 662. As soon as Jing Yunjiao and Xiao Haiqing left the office, the dean felt as if he had forgotten something. He thought about it carefully and scratched his head. His heart felt stifled. He had said that he wanted to talk to Jing Yunjiao about hacking the school's forum, but in the end, he had forgotten. When he opened the forum, the director was speechless again. He saw that the overall style of the web page had changed. When he opened all the subpages, There were only a few pictures of skeletons shaking their heads and carrying backpacks. Other than that, there was nothing else. But these pictures were quite creative. He didn't expect Jing Yunjiao to know such a talent. At this moment, Li Xiaoyun was leaning on a rocking chair with Du Lin beside him. Du Lin was staring at his computer with a look of admiration. Li Xiao, I didn't expect you to know this. But, speaking of which, other than this small forum, what else can you hack? Du Lin's eyes lit up. Li Xiaoyun looked bored. He shoved the computer into Du Lin's hands and closed his eyes to rest. He said lazily, it's nothing. I stopped playing with this thing 10 years ago. Du Lin's mouth twitched. Wasn't the difference between people a little too big? If Yun Zhao knew that you were the hacker, she would be shocked to death. Do you want me to tell her and give her a surprise? Du Lin's eyes lit up. However, Li Xiaoyun was now a teacher in No. 1 middle school. Although he was only there to make up the numbers, if the school knew that he was the culprit, all the leaders would probably want to die. At this time, you can try. But don't blame me for not reminding you. Our Zhao's temper isn't very good recently, Li Xiaoyun said slowly. It wasn't that Jing Yunjiao didn't feel grateful, but at this moment, Jing Yunjiao had an aura that kept people away. No wonder you were so direct when you called her last time. Du Lin chuckled. He finally understood why Li Xiaoyun's attitude was so cold. Those who didn't know would think that he didn't care about Jing Yunjiao at all. In the rocking chair, Li Xiaoyun fell asleep in a short while. Du Lin hugged the computer and looked at the skull on the screen, laughing for a while. He really couldn't imagine that this was Li Xiaoyun's taste. Time was limited, so Jing Yunjiao simply asked for leave and accompanied Xiao Haiqing to Zhuo Haiyang's villa in Ning City. The frequency of Jing Yunjiao applying for leave was extremely high. However, because it never affected his studies, Teacher Qi had already turned a blind eye to it. Moreover, Li Xiaoyun was his guardian, so there was no surprise. After spending 3 days, Jing Yunjiao found a body double that looked exactly like James. Because James was a foreigner and had an extremely fair complexion, Jing Yunjiao required perfection, so it took a longer time. Other than that, all the furnishings in the house had to be exactly the same as before. Fortunately, everything in the Zhuo family was of high quality and would not be thrown away carelessly, so it was easy to replenish. As for Zhuo Haiyang, she was still in the police station. When everything was ready, Jing Yunjiao used the same method to install cameras all over the room. Even the brand and model of the cameras were the same as the Zhuo families. Now that everyone was ready, all that was left was to put on a show. This matter couldn't be blown out of proportion and couldn't involve other people. Otherwise, if the police came forward, they would definitely verify the authenticity of the photos. Therefore, Jing Yunjiao was extremely careful when he took the photos. In the last photo, Xiao Haiqing's struggling appearance could be seen, as well as the scene of her successfully escaping from the villa. The most important thing was the photo that looked different from different angles. Jing Yunjiao tried several times. After confirming that there were no problems, he breathed a sigh of relief. Chapter 663. Jing Yunjiao sent the photos to Li Xiaoyun and asked him to edit all the details in the photos. Only a few days had passed since the series of things were done, and there were still a few days before the 2-week deadline given by the dean. However, the rumors in the school were getting more and more intense. Even though the school said that Xiao Haiqing was temporarily studying at home, in the eyes of others, they still thought that she had been expelled. Even the word investigation was completely ignored. After all, those people saw the photos and naturally felt that it was an irrefutable fact. On this day, Jing Yunjiao placed a stack of photos on the teaching director's desk. The teaching director's face was filled with astonishment. It was obvious that he never thought that Jing Yunjiao would really take out the so-called evidence. But when he opened the photos to take a look, his facial features were about to crumple together. This. Xiao Haiqing, you should know who the person in the photos is, right? That's attempted rape. The dean couldn't accept it. After all, she was a student of the school. Encountering such a thing, he was more or less furious. Dean, this matter is related to my father, so I don't want to call the police, Xiao Haiqing said. As for the real reason, it was naturally not for Xiao Daoan. These photos were all fake. The teachers couldn't tell, but if they were sent to the police, after a series of comparisons and analysis, the possibility of being exposed was high. She wouldn't do such a thankless thing. Even if the truth was the same as the photos she faked, there was no other way now. Since Xiao Haiqing had said so, the dean could only show a trace of regret on his face. I'll talk to the other leaders later. After these photos have been circulated, I'll return them to you. But, as the dean spoke, he took off his glasses, wiped them, and put them back on. He said, Jing Yunjiao, this school forum, it was still dark. Jing Yunjiao was stunned. I'm sorry, Dean. I've been busy these few days, so I forgot. Don't worry, I'll get someone to restore the forum to its original state. Of course, all the unfavorable comments about Xiao Haiqing would be deleted one by one. Not a single bit would be left. The corner of the director's mouth twitched. All right, you guys can go out first. Oh right, the college entrance examination will be in a few months. You two must put in more effort. Needless to say, Jing Yunjiao was the top student in the whole school. Xiao Haiqing was not bad either. She was also in the top 20 in the whole school. However, this girl's exam was completely dependent on her mood. When she was in a good mood, she could pass the top 3. When she was in a bad mood, she could fall back to the top 50. However, she knew in her heart that if she exceeded the top 50, she would have to leave class 1. Therefore, she had a bottom line. The two nodded. After the matter was told to the director, a few leaders held a meeting on the same day. After the things were passed around, the group of people had nothing to say. Although Xiao Haiqing's clothes were disheveled at that time, she didn't do it on her own accord. Moreover, from the moment she entered the villa to the moment she left, they had filmed everything, so they wouldn't think too much about it. However, even though Xiao Haiqing had already resisted, the negative impact of this matter still existed. After some consideration, the leaders finally decided to give her a verbal demerit. After all, in the photo, Xiao Haiqing was drunk. Otherwise, such an accident and misunderstanding wouldn't have happened. Therefore, Xiao Haiqing was convinced. However, when the punishment was announced, there was an uproar. Since it was only a demerit, the school naturally explained the reason. As for Jing Yunjiao, after Li Xiaoyun restored the forum, she rearranged the cause and effect of the incident, as well as the photo that could easily cause misunderstandings, and reposted it. Only after a series of explanations did the storm calm down a little. Chapter 664. Xiao Haiqing knew in her heart that even if everyone knew the truth, her reputation would not be restored. After all, the person in the photo was her, and she was only a high school student. Even if she did not do it willingly, even if there was no excessive physical contact in the photo, some people could not help but think too much. However, the current situation was already very good. Compared to the previous situation, she was extremely satisfied. Dear Yunjiao, tell me, how do you want me to repay your kindness? Xiao Haiqing winked at Jing Yunjiao and leaned her head forward. Seeing her head deliberately leaning forward, Jing Yunjiao raised his hand and pushed her face away. I am not interested in girls. How about I go to country T, then go to country H for plastic surgery. I guarantee that when I come back, I will become a super handsome guy. As the saying goes, do not let your own fertile water flow into other people's fields. When I think of you marrying someone else in the future, my heart goes cold. Xiao Haiqing said and laughed. Jing Yunjiao rolled his eyes and focused on his homework. After so many days without class, there was a pile of exam papers. He quickly filled in the blanks and his phone vibrated a few times. He opened it and saw that it was a message from Pak Yuan. Interesting, now all the goods from the ocean company are going to be taken off the shelves and destroyed. Jing Yunjiao's mouth curved into a smile. This meant that the government admitted that there was a problem with the ocean company's products. One must know that the government's words were more useful than anything else. I saw that someone on the internet said that even Yu Ling Wines is being investigated. Is there a problem? Xiao Haiqing stopped smiling and asked seriously. Jing Yunjiao pursed his lips. Don't worry. There was absolutely no problem with Yu Ling Wine's wine recipes. She could not ask for more people to be willing to advertise for her. When Jing Yunjiao received the news, Ning City and the internet were already in an uproar. When the news was announced, it completely corrected Yu Ling Wine's reputation. The customers that were originally taken away by the Ocean Company naturally came back. Originally, the employees of Yu Ling Wines did not understand why their boss did not reduce production, but now they completely understood. After the trough, there was a huge explosion. Pak Yuan didn't spend a single cent, but he took all the publicity for the Ocean Company. Zhuo Haiyang and James spent hundreds of millions, but they suffered a double loss. Now, Yu Ling Wines had a beautiful turnaround. In the next few months, the company's sales would increase several times. Not only did the sales increase, but the brand effect was also increasing. After all, it was a company with a conscience that even the government recognized. Compared to the Jade Spirit Wine Company, the Ocean Company was in a miserable state. Zhuo Haiyang was the person in charge of the company. If there was a problem with the product, he would definitely be punished. Fortunately, no one died from drinking the wine. Otherwise, Zhuo Haiyang's reputation would be even worse. After Zhuo Haiyang accepted the official fine, he also compensated the victim. But that was just the beginning. For the next few months, Zhuo Haiyang's company had been facing all kinds of investigations. After the wine was cleared and destroyed, there were people who complained that there were problems with the snacks produced by the Ocean Company. Generally, these companies would use false advertising, and the Ocean Company was no exception. It was quickly found that although the food did not endanger the consumer's health, some of the ingredients on the packaging did not match the actual content. They were fined again, but this time the fine was not heavy. It was only a few tens of thousands, but their reputation was completely ruined. Those supermarkets, shopping malls, and all the other businesses did not dare to cooperate with Zhuo Haiyang. Chapter 665. Over the past few months, Zhuo Haiyang had been slapped in the face by reality again and again. James and Zhuo Haiyang were already in the same boat. Zhuo Haiyang was now in debt, and many of his equipment had been confiscated. The company had no future prospects, so naturally, James would not be able to get a single cent. Hundreds of millions of funds had been completely wasted. Although Zhuo Haiyang was considered a debtor, he could not afford to pay it back in his current situation. James sat in his wheelchair and looked at Zhuo Haiyang's miserable face as he handed him a stack of documents. He was so angry that he threw everything away. Trash. You're a useless piece of shit. James pointed at Zhuo Haiyang's nose and continued to scold him. I gave you so much money, and this is how you repay me. You're far worse than Pak Yuan. Pak Yuan was definitely the biggest beneficiary. Any place that sold Yu Ling wine was selling like hotcakes. Many people on the internet were calling Zhuo Haiyang and the investors of Zhuo Haiyang's company stupid pigs for spending money to advertise for their competitors. Zhuo Haiyang was extremely embarrassed. Over the past few months, he had become more and more haggard. His face was unshaven, his eyes were dull, and his hair was longer than before. It was as messy as a chicken's nest. He had not taken off his suit for a long time, and it was emitting a sour smell. He had begged a lot of people, but it was all useless. Most of the company's employees had left, and the rest were waiting for him to pay them. No one had purposely suppressed him. If Pak Yuan had purposely done something to suppress him, he might have felt better. At least it would prove that his failure was not due to his incompetence. But now, Pak Yuan acted as if he did not know him. When people mentioned Zhuo Haiyang in public, Pak Yuan only looked at him with disdain. It was as if he had spent so much effort, but he was just a clown imitating Yu Ling wine. He knew that Pak Yuan did it on purpose. Instead of suppressing him, he provoked him to the greatest extent. There were even so many people outside praising Pak Yuan for his generosity. Zhuo Haiyang stood in front of James, his heart filled with despair. He could not figure out how he had lost. Was it a problem with the recipe? But even though the taste was exactly the same, he still couldn't believe that the contents of the wine recipe were different. James was still cursing beside his ear, but Zhuo Haiyang didn't seem to hear him. He kept scratching his head and muttering, "The wine recipe is the same. Someone framed me. The victims are all fake," Zhuo Haiyang said as he left the building in a daze. As soon as he arrived downstairs, he saw many debt collectors lying on the ground with bruises all over their faces. Jing Yunjiao looked at them from afar and called the nearby mental hospital. After suffering such a huge blow, even if he did not become mentally ill, she would let him live in this world in another way. However, she could also use the silver needles to do something. It was just that she did not wish to use her medical skills to harm people unless it was absolutely necessary. Otherwise, she would feel somewhat uncomfortable in her heart. Zhuo Haiyang's parents were both abroad. They only came back after the company's accident, but it was already too late. Therefore, it was of no help to Zhuo Haiyang at all. As soon as Zhuo Haiyang arrived at the mental hospital, he kept resisting. No matter how much he tried to explain, no one paid any attention to him. He only calmed down after he was given an injection. Chapter 666. Since Zhuo Haiyang was admitted to the hospital, his parents had to be informed. However, although the parents were sad, they were not surprised. After all, their son had suffered a huge blow, and they knew it clearly in their hearts. After cooperating with the doctor and telling them about their son's usual reactions, they thought about it and decided to keep him in the mental hospital for treatment. After Zhuo Haiyang woke up, he continued to explain. However, just like before, the doctors and nurses only thought that his illness was acting up. When he resisted, they forced injections and medicine. After a period of time, Zhuo Haiyang was already confused. He clearly felt that his brain was not enough. After a few months of torture, his spirit was already at the end of its tether. After this mess, it was even more problematic. Every day, he would write and draw on a piece of paper. He would tell everyone that it was a wine recipe. Every day, he would hold a variety of liquids and tell others that it was sea blue alcohol and that it tasted amazing. Once the other patients did not cooperate, he would start to go crazy. He would punch and kick, becoming more and more violent. Zhuo Haiyang became a mental patient. Jing Yunjiao also gave James a big gift. Since he liked women so much, Jing Yunjiao naturally had to get someone to serve him well. He found a sick woman to accompany him for a night. Just as James was about to leave for home, he was found to have contracted an STD. He was so angry that he smashed and smashed things. In the villa, Jing Yunjiao sneaked in. There was a woman beside James. Halfway through, the woman realized that something was wrong and scolded, "Old man, why are you looking for a woman when you're sick? Are you trying to kill me?" After that, she smashed and smashed her newly bought designer bag at James. With a face full of fear, she rushed out of the door. James's body was naked. His face was ferocious and terrifying. At this time, Jing Yunjiao, who was hiding in the dark, glanced at the surrounding situation. He raised his hand and threw out the weapon that he had prepared. In an instant, it hit the chain of the huge chandelier above James' head. With a bang, it smashed down. The moment the chandelier fell, James had already heard the commotion. He subconsciously looked up, but it was too late. He immediately fell into a pool of blood. The two bodyguards who were guarding the villa's door rushed in after hearing the commotion. They were shocked when they saw it. Jing Yunjiao had escaped unscathed. A starving camel was still bigger than a horse. James was rich. Although losing a few $100 million was a huge loss for him, it was not to the extent that he could not live on. However, she did not wish for such a person to remain in this world. James died instantly. This was the first time she had ended someone's life so directly, but there was only joy in her heart. You can't be soft-hearted towards people like James. James's death also shocked those who knew him. However, he was a foreigner after all, and he only had a few business partners in the country. No one really mourned for him. Moreover, James was famous for his lust and selfishness. This kind of person was dead, and no one wanted to waste their feelings. Moreover, James was the only one in the house when he passed away. Although a knife without fingerprints was found at the scene, it was impossible for that kind of thing to cut the chain. Moreover, even if one wanted to cut the chain, One would have to climb a tall building. How could a normal person do that? Naturally, the matter was left unsettled and treated as an accident. The marine company was completely finished. The two people who were most involved with the marine company had gone mad and died. Only then did their notoriety become a thing of the past. However, a few months later, Jing Yunjiao was about to take the most important exam in his life. Chapter 667. It was the beginning of summer, and the air was filled with heat. The scorching sun shone down, making it hard for people to sit or stand still. In the examination room, only the sound of shua 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 could be heard. Every student was nervous, and some were serious. All of their attention was focused on the test paper in front of them. Seeing this question, Jing Yunjiao was somewhat familiar with it. Although she didn't participate in this exam in her previous life, Qiao Hongye and Qiao Zizhou did. After the two returned home, they discussed it for a long time. She heard some of it, but she didn't know the correct answer at that time. Plus, after so many years, she only recalled it now when she saw the question, so it couldn't be considered cheating. Jing Yunjiao skimmed through the question, her pen flying. Some of the students nearby couldn't help but look at her with envy. The surroundings were quiet. The 3 consecutive days of exams made everyone's footsteps become heavy. The entire county was much quieter than before. The few of us are going to the same city, right? Once the exam ended, Xiao Haiqing gathered everyone together to celebrate and asked. When these words were said, everyone was stunned. What's wrong? Could it be that you haven't thought about which school you want to go to in the future, and what kind of major you want to study? Xiao Haiqing looked at them with disdain. In the future, I will be taking care of the household for grandfather, so I will definitely study something related to finance. As for which school? Tang Zihua smiled. I'm afraid it won't be in the same city as you guys. I want to go to X city. There are better universities there, and the environment is better. You're not going to the capital? Su Chu looked at Tang Zihua with disappointment. But this kind of situation, everyone expected it. Although they were a little disappointed, there was nothing they could do. Cousin, I don't want to study medicine, but I don't dare to tell grandfather. What should I do? Su Chu said again. Gan Jinchen heard, you don't want to study either? This time it's over, I'm the same as you. The thing that Grandpa Gan wanted the most in his life was to pass down his medical skills. But now, Gan Jinchen and Su Chu were unexpectedly not interested in medicine. If they chose something unrelated to medicine, Grandpa Gan might faint from anger. The two of them looked at each other with a sad expression on their faces. She stared at Jing Yunjiao cautiously and said, Cousin, can you help us plead with grandfather? The two of us really don't have talent in this area. It's fine if we learn it part-time, but if we put all our heart and soul into it like you, we'll really be bored to death. Learning medicine, especially traditional Chinese medicine, was a long and painful process. There were countless things to memorize every day, and so many strange pharmacology to understand. It was really a painful thing for them. In the past, they were still young, so they were still obedient. But now that it involved their whole lives, of course, they didn't want to listen to the old man anymore. Jing Yunjiao spread out his hands. I can't help it. If you don't want to learn, you can tell the old man yourself. If I say it, the old man will only be angrier. Su Chu pursed her lips. What a headache. They weren't worried about the results at all. Even if they failed, it wouldn't be too bad. But, if the two of you don't want to study medicine, what do you want to study? Jing Yunjiao asked again. He was also a little curious. The two of them were stunned. Su Chu shook her head and thought for a while. I still like things that are full of artistic aura. For example, art majors. Jing Yunjiao raised his eyebrows, but he wasn't surprised. Chapter 668. Su Chu had a quiet and clean personality. She had learned all kinds of talents since she was young, so she had a good foundation. After Su Chu finished speaking, Gan Jinchen looked a little embarrassed and didn't say anything. The others were interested when they saw how secretive he was. Xiao Haiqing quickly said, "What's going on, Gan Jinchen? Why are you so sissy? I think men should either join the army or go into politics." "So I'm still thinking." After Gan Jinchen finished speaking, the other's eyes lit up. Xiao Haiqing even patted his shoulder and said, "Good job. You're thinking about your profession. You're already thinking about what you want to do in the future." However, if he wanted to go into politics and administration were better. If he wanted to join the army, there were the best military academies in Jingju. Xiao Haiqing grinned and said, "It's good to have a goal. I've decided to go to Jingju, but I haven't thought about what I want to study." "Yun Zhao, you shouldn't be surprised. You must be majoring in Chinese medicine." "No, I have a master to teach me Chinese medicine, so I don't need to waste time." Jing Yunjiao took a sip of water and replied. Xiao Haiqing was stunned for a moment and said, "That's true." The others nodded as well. They knew a little about Jing Yunjiao's medical skills. Her level was much higher than Old Man Gan's. As for her specific ability, they didn't know, so they couldn't judge. However, they were sure that with her ability, she could definitely be a professor in Chinese medicine. She didn't need to be a student at all. But if she excluded Chinese medicine, did she have to learn Western medicine? Not to mention that Old Man Gan would faint if he knew Jing Yunjiao's mysterious master and Elder Shu wouldn't agree. What's more, Jing Yunjiao wasn't completely clueless about Western medicine. They could often see her hugging books related to anatomy and physiology. She must have self-studied them before. They looked at each other. Xiao Haiqing ruffled her hair irritably. "Forget it. Let's talk about it after the scores are out. Anyway, Yun Zhao, I'll go wherever you go. We must be together." Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched. In order to celebrate their graduation, they drank heartily. "Haiqing, your alcohol tolerance seems to have improved a lot." After a few bottles, Xiao Haiqing was still able to hold her liquor. She even seemed to be in high spirits. Jing Yunjiao glanced at her. "You only know now. For the past few months, there has been a faint smell of alcohol on her body every day. She must have been practicing her alcohol tolerance at home at night." "Are you for real? What I smelled before was clearly a fragrance. You even said that it was a different shampoo." Su Chu glared at him. "Yun Zhao, do you have a dog's nose? Every morning, I take a bath to get rid of the smell, and I even bought a perfume to cover it up." Xiao Haiqing was also stunned. Jing Yunjiao looked at her with disdain. Even after a night, a person who has drunk alcohol will have a different complexion, spirit, and pulse than a normal person. Moreover, you keep rubbing your head every morning. How can I not notice it? Also, do you really think that I give you candy every day?" Jing Yunjiao smiled faintly. Xiao Haiqing was dumbfounded. She licked her lips. No wonder Jing Yunjiao always had a box of candy on his desk. It smelled so good. Every time, she would eat a few out of curiosity. It was because she would feel better after eating it. So, it was specially prepared for her. Xiao Haiqing's eyes were filled with hearts. "See, I told you that Yun Zhao loves me the most. He has done so much for me. It's been a few months, and I only found out now." Chapter 669. Xiao Haiqing's heart was filled with warmth. Jing Yunjiao didn't say much as she pursed her lips and smiled. She could think of the reason why Xiao Haiqing was practicing her alcohol tolerance, so she didn't stop her. If she had mentioned it earlier, she would definitely be embarrassed, so she pretended not to know. Now that she saw that Xiao Haiqing's alcohol tolerance was so good, she felt relieved to mention it. Xiao Haiqing was probably worried that she would get drunk one day and do something she didn't want to do. She would get up from where she fell. That was her personality. The few of them played the whole night outside. When they returned, other than Jing Yunjiao and Xiao Haiqing, the others were already drunk. Su Chu was practically hanging on to Jing Yunjiao's body and refused to get down. Tang Zihua and Gan Jinchen were calling each other brothers, which made Jing Yunjiao feel complicated and amused. The two of them had similar personalities and were both people who cared a lot about face. Usually, they would compare with each other, but now, it was as if their relationship had suddenly deepened. Xiao Daoan, has he been causing trouble recently? Jing Yunjiao asked Xiao Haiqing as he supported Suchu. Xiao Haiqing's face was a bit red from the wine, looking pretty and flirtatious. She curled her lips and said, "Him? He comes every time he's free, but I don't see him. I changed the lock on the door, but after being harassed by him, Jiang Rong's mental state isn't too good. She's obviously pregnant, but she's much lighter than before. Luckily, her due date is coming soon." Jing Yunjiao smiled bitterly. Since Jiang Rong was about to give birth, then Xiao Daoan would probably be even crazier, right? Xiao Daoan's company had shrunk in size, and the villa that he had bought before had been replaced. It had become an ordinary apartment in Ning City, but it was still not as good as the best. However, Xiao Daoan was still not satisfied. After all, he was someone who had almost walked into the upper class of Ning City. That kind of gap might not be able to be filled in this lifetime. Therefore, he often had Xiao Haiqing accompany him to get to know all kinds of bosses. He was really shameless. But what Jing Yunjiao couldn't understand was that Xiao Haiqing always agreed and accompanied him to all kinds of activities. Now, her social skills had improved a lot and she knew a lot of people. Fortunately, she knew what she was doing and accompanied him to eat and drink. But things like what happened with James didn't happen. "I really don't know how you're going to treat the child in Jiang Rong's stomach." Jing Yunjiao was confused. What's so difficult about that? No matter whose child it is, this child will be my leverage against Jiang Rong. When I go to the capital, with this child, Jiang Rong won't be able to do anything. And my father. He thinks that he has everything in his hands, but he doesn't know that he already has nothing. Why do you think I go out with him to socialize every time? I can guarantee that as long as I say the word, my father will immediately lose everything in his hands. Whatever Xiao Daoan was up to, she only needed to call those people and she would know everything clearly. Other than that, she had tried her best to go to her father's study and even his company countless times during this period of time. She was very clear about all the information that could be used against them. The evidence that should be preserved or the things that should be copied had already been copied and hidden. There was a saying that went, "It's hard to guard against a thief in the house." Wasn't she that thief in the house? But now, it wasn't time for him to lose everything because he hadn't seen his daughter doing well. Thinking of this, Xiao Haiqing's eyes flashed. She was short of money. Although Jing Yunjiao had it, she wasn't so thick-skinned as to go around borrowing money. She would rely on herself. Chapter 670. Xiao Haiqing shook her head and thought about the exam again. Her mind suddenly thought of a way out, but when she looked at Jing Yunjiao, her gaze was conflicted for a while. Once the exam was over, there was plenty of work to do. Jing Yunjiao became a snail hiding in the house again. He spent almost all of his time in the space and absorbed more than half of the spirit jade. There were herbs, fruits, and vegetables everywhere in the space. Looking at these vegetables, Jing Yunjiao thought of Yu Tianxian. She promised Li Shaoyun that she would go to the capital, so it would be more troublesome to deliver the goods. Fortunately, the safety of the things in the space was much better than outside, otherwise it would affect Yu Tianxian's dishes. However, it was easy to completely solve the problem of delivery. After all, there were many villages near the county, and there were even a lot of unused land. They could be self-sufficient. Although the taste was not as good as in the space, as long as they were taken care of properly and avoided pesticides, the taste would not be too different. This could be done slowly by Du Lin in the future. There was no need to rush. While Jing Yunjiao was leisurely absorbing all kinds of knowledge, time passed very quickly outside. In the blink of an eye, the day of the announcement of the results had arrived. Because the time in the space was 5 times slower than outside, Jing Yunjiao completely forgot about it. It was not until Xiao Haiqing called that he knew the results were out. "I haven't checked yet." Jing Yunjiao heard the voice on the other end of the phone and said in confusion, "There's no need to check. You're famous now." 749. Xiao Haiqing's voice was a little incoherent. The total score of the college entrance exam was only 750, but Jing Yunjiao only had 1 point deducted. She heard that it was a symbolic blank for the essay. Jing Yunjiao was stunned. "Oh, I'll treat you guys to a meal later." "Oh, you just said oh? Yunjiao, are you still human? You're now the top scholar. I think Teacher Qi is going crazy. He has taught for so many years and is about to retire, but you actually gave him such a big surprise. But speaking of which, don't you want to go and see him? I'm really worried that he'll get sick from the excitement." Xiao Haiqing continued to chatter. Xiao Haiqing was speechless. She already knew that Jing Yunjiao's grades were good, and she also knew that this exam wouldn't stump her at all. However, she didn't expect her exam paper to be so perfect. Jing Yunjiao rubbed his temples. "How are you? And Chu Chu and the others?" "I'm quite satisfied. 680. Chu Chu is a little better, 701. Gan Jinchen and Tang Zihua are also close to 700. Xiao Haiqing said. Jing Yunjiao nodded. Their grades weren't bad. Only Xiao Haiqing was impatient, so she wasn't very stable. However, with their grades, their schools generally wouldn't have any problems. After Xiao Haiqing finished speaking, she began to talk about Jing Yunjiao's grades. She kept flattering Jing Yunjiao, making him dizzy. He found an excuse and quickly hung up the phone. However, as soon as he hung up the phone, Suchu called again. A few times, Suchu, Tang Zihua, and Gan Jinchen, then Grandpa Gan, Grandpa Tang, Teacher Qi, and even Pak Yuan, Xiong Jin, and her patients sent their blessings. When the phone calls completely stopped, it was already night time. Jing Yunjiao looked at his phone that had run out of battery and was speechless. After thinking about it, he packed his things and hid in Grandpa Shu's courtyard. Chapter 671. She couldn't stay in that neighborhood. After all, there were many people who knew where she lived. She didn't want to receive so many people one after another. It was troublesome. In the end, Old Man Shu's courtyard was quieter. When the old man heard about her results, he only glanced at her and said, "What's the use of being the top scorer? It would be strange if you didn't become the top scorer." Jing Yunjiao, on the other hand, broke into a smile, genuinely feeling relaxed. She liked to do everything seriously, so she was as careful as possible when she read the exam papers. However, she didn't think so much at the time. If she had known it would be so troublesome, she might have restrained herself and scored less. "Elder Shu, I might be going to the capital. Do you want to come with me?" Jing Yunjiao thought for a moment and asked. Making medicine with Old Man Shu was the most relaxing thing she could do. Moreover, every time her thoughts wandered, Old Man Shu would lecture her and she would immediately settle down. She also knew that Old Man Shu had no relatives in Huaning County. His sons were all in the capital. Now, only Shu Xingyuan was by his side to take care of him. Shu Xingyuan often told her that every time she wasn't around, the old man's temper wasn't too good. No one persuaded him to drink. Old Man Shu snorted. "I'm not going. Elder Shu. If you don't go, I won't be able to help you in the future. Also, I actually have a lot of good medicinal herbs, but there's no share for you. As for those special wines, it's the same, stupid girl, we'll talk about this later." When the old man heard this, he fiercely glared at her and angrily returned to his room. Seeing him like this, Jing Yunjiao's face lit up. She didn't want the old man to return to the capital just to have someone by her side. More importantly, she heard Shu Xingyuan mention that the old man actually missed his sons. However, he had already said those words out of anger. He was also a stubborn person, so it was impossible for him to take them back. His sons were more or less the same. Therefore, if this situation continued to develop, Old Man Shu would really be all alone. Jing Yunjiao stayed at Old Man Shu's place. As expected, it was much quieter. Other than the few friends by her side, no one else knew where she lived. Her results were too eye-catching, so the number of people who came to find her wasn't small. Among them were representatives from various big schools, but it was a pity that Jing Yunjiao seemed to have disappeared without a trace. Almost everyone who came returned empty-handed. Xiao Haiqing and the others were a little speechless. Everyone else wished they had such a good reputation, But Jing Yunjiao was different. Just because he was afraid of trouble, he kept everyone at the door. Even when he was filling in the school, he sneaked into the school like a thief. After settling everything, he quickly disappeared. Jing Yunjiao chose a business management major after much deliberation. It was also for the sake of better managing the company in the future. Now that she had Pak Yuan's help, she only needed to make some decisions. Everything was thoroughly analyzed by Pak Yuan and Seong Jin, so she could safely be a behind-the-scenes boss. However, in reality, she wasn't proficient in this area. Moreover, she would be an adult in less than half a year. When that time came, everything in the company would be handed over to her. At that time, if she took over as an outsider, she wouldn't be able to convince the public. Jing Yunjiao chose University A, which was one of the top 3 universities in the capital. It definitely had a pivotal position. The faculty was abundant, and all kinds of resources were very good. As for Xiao Haiqing, it was beyond Jing Yunjiao's expectations. After seeing that she chose a business management major, she chose a film school with a look of despair. Chapter 672. In fact, the two schools were not far from each other, but Xiao Haiqing's expression was the funniest. While Xiao Haiqing was choosing her school, Jiang Rong gave birth to a son. Xiao Haiqing immediately took the child for a DNA test, and the results proved that the child's father was indeed James. Jiang Rong fainted when she heard the results. Even after she woke up, she looked at the child with a cold expression, and even ignored him. Xiao Haiqing recorded Jiang Rong's attitude with a pinhole camera, and then found a family to temporarily foster the child. As for the reason for recording, Xiao Haiqing frankly told Jing Yunjiao that it was for the future. The child was destined to be with her, and if Jiang Rong tried to sow discord in the future, these videos would be the evidence. Jing Yunjiao was speechless when she started to scheme so early, but she did everything to protect herself, and it was also because of Jiang Rong's many years of coercion, so Jing Yunjiao did not think there was anything wrong with it. When there was only one day left before she had to report, Jing Yunjiao finally started her journey. Pak Yuan specially drove to pick her up, but Jing Yunjiao refused. In her previous life, she had been trapped in a small place like Hua Ning County, and had never traveled far. Moreover, she had already agreed to go with Xiao Haiqing and the others to experience the atmosphere and scenery along the way. If she sat in Pak Yuan's car, it would be too boring. When the time came, the few of them gathered together and stepped onto the train. It took about 10 hours to travel from the county to the capital. The 4 of them carried bags of various sizes into the carriage. There was a slight smell in the carriage, but it was still clean. After finding a place to sleep, they went to rest. Because they set off in the early morning, most of the people in the carriage were extremely quiet, and they did not make any noise. However, it had to be said that there were many young faces in the carriage. After all, it was the start of the school season, and many people were about to start their journey away from home. Jing Yunjiao glanced around and found that many of them had proud expressions on their faces. Obviously, they were full of yearning and passion for the future. I see that there are quite a few people of the same age in the carriage. Are they all going to school in the capital? Maybe we'll even be in the same school. A female voice came from the seat next to him. The other 3 people in that seat also made a rustling noise. Hey, what school are you from? The boy asked. Me. I was lucky and got into a university. You guys know that the cutoff for a university is really high. Not many people in the entire county can go there. The girl's voice was filled with pride. At the mention of a university, Jing Yunjiao tilted his head and took a few more glances. The girl was wearing ordinary clothes and a pair of glasses. Her short hair was a little messy, and she wasn't very pretty. As soon as the girl said that, the other 3 people sitting with her looked envious. A university? That's amazing. But I heard that the top scholar of the college entrance examination applied there with a high score of 749. It's a pity that I didn't see any news about her. But, don't tell me you're that top scholar. The girl was stunned, and a trace of uneasiness flashed across her face. She only said, actually, The other universities are also very good. There are even 2 universities that are neck and neck with a university. It's a pity that I can't be in 2 places at the same time. Otherwise, I'd really want to go to all of them to take a look. Her non-denial attitude made the 3 people a little excited. Jing Yunjiao raised his eyebrows and did not say anything. Xiao Haiqing sneered and climbed down from the top bunk. She whispered in Jing Yunjiao's ear, "How thick-skinned. If I were you, I'd rush up and expose her." Chapter 673. Xiao Haiqing rolled her eyes fiercely. Jing Yunjiao tugged at her and said, "Forget it. If you really expose her, it'll be embarrassing." This person didn't deny it or admit it. She just wanted to save her face. It was just a small matter, so there was no need to be so confrontational. If I were you, I'd want to publicize this matter to everyone. Then, this wouldn't have happened. Xiao Haiqing's face was filled with righteous indignation. Jing Yunjiao smiled and didn't agree. Although it was a good thing, once everyone knew about it, there would always be people digging up her past. When that time came, there would definitely be reports about her being independent without parents. She had experienced the feeling of being the center of attention before. If looks could kill, she was afraid that she would have fallen 10,000 times under those gazes. Compared to a flamboyant life, she preferred to keep a low profile. After all, she still had a long time to spend in university. "Oh right, Haiqing, I haven't asked you yet. Why did you choose to study acting? Do you really want to be an artist in the future?" Jing Yunjiao suddenly asked. It wasn't that she thought there was anything wrong with being an artist, but she originally thought that Xiao Haiqing would also choose to major in business. Moreover, not long ago, Xiao Haiqing looked like she wanted to be together with her. However, in the blink of an eye, she actually went to another school. This made her feel a little surprised. "With my beauty, do you think there won't be a day when I'll be successful? Once I become popular, I'll earn money faster. After I have money, I'll consider doing other things." Xiao Haiqing grinned. Jing Yunjiao frowned. Just as he was about to speak, Xiao Haiqing cut him off. "Dear, I know you have money, but it's yours. Do you think I'm the kind of person who would live on charity?" Jing Yunjiao was suddenly speechless. Whether it was an artist or not, Xiao Haiqing had good looks and a good voice. She was smart and straightforward. As long as she studied hard, she could definitely develop into an all-rounder in the future. What if it doesn't? Suchu asked softly. Xiao Haiqing's mouth twitched. "Don't jinx it. If it doesn't become popular, then I can only accept my fate. When that happens, I'll toss my dignity aside and beg Jing Yunjiao to open an artist agency for me." He blabbered on, but every word was true. Suchu giggled at her teasing, but because the surroundings were still very quiet, she deliberately lowered her voice to not be noisy. Suchu had gone to the capital city Academy of Fine Arts. Her future would probably be as bright as ever. However, it took a lot of effort for Suchu and Gan Jinchen to apply for the university. Suchu was still all right, as Grandpa Gan was not very strict with her. However, it was different for Gan Jinchen. He negotiated with his family for a long time. In the end, everyone took a step back. Gan Jinchen was still practicing medicine, but he was a military doctor. In any case, it was related to the word military, so Gan Jinchen was quite satisfied. The 4 of them chatted for a while and became more and more energetic. At this time, the voices around them became a little noisy. "The 4 of us are fated to meet each other. After we go to the capital city, we should keep in touch, especially you, Jing Yunjiao. A university is such a good place. When you come out, your future will be bright. Don't forget about us." Jing Yunjiao was stunned when he heard the name. The school actually respected her decision and did not announce it. Others only knew that the top scholar was in number 1 middle school and knew his name, but they did not know what he looked like. Even though Jing Yunjiao's identity had been exposed once, it was something that happened a long time ago and had long been thrown to the back of people's minds. Chapter 674. Jing Yunjiao wasn't the only one who didn't react. Su Chu and the rest were also in a daze as they turned their heads to listen to the commotion around them. The girl who was called Jing Yunjiao laughed dryly. Actually, as long as you study hard, you'll be successful no matter which university you graduate from. You're so polite. But can I take a picture with you? I'll send the picture to my parents later. They always talk about you in front of me. Oh right, you might not know this, but I have an aunt who is a teacher at No. 1 middle school. She even taught you before. The girl's face turned pale when she heard this. A picture? Forget it. I don't look good on camera. I'm afraid of pictures. She hurriedly shook her head. The boy was a little disappointed when he heard this, but he didn't take it to heart. He said, "What major are you studying at University A? Why don't you give me your phone number? I'll ask you out for a meal." The girl's face was a little embarrassed. After the first lie, there were more lies to cover up for. "Sorry, I'm a little sleepy. I need to rest now." After speaking, she lay down on the bed and closed her eyes tightly, afraid that others would call her Jing Yunjiao again. The other 3 people beside her looked at each other. They didn't understand why this girl who was speaking so confidently a moment ago had become so cold and indifferent in the blink of an eye. The girl on the top bunk was fine. She just stuck out her tongue to ease the awkwardness and climbed back to the top bunk to rest. However, one of the boys opposite her was a little disgusted. "How can it be like this? Isn't it just a top scholar? What's the big deal? She won't take a picture with us and won't give us her phone number. That's fine, but now she won't even talk to us. Alright, that's enough. People with good grades aren't very sociable. I can understand that." Another boy smiled. "That's why it's useless to be the top scholar. Nowadays, people don't go to high school or university. Instead, they become bosses. Those top scholars and runners-up end up working. What's the point of doing well now? They don't even know common courtesy. They might not be better than us in the future," the narrow-minded boy said again. It would have been better if he hadn't said anything. His words made the girl angry. Whoosh. She sat up from her bed and stared at them. "I think you guys are sour grapes because you can't eat them. What does me being the top scorer have to do with you? Did I disturb you from eating and drinking?" She even said that I might be able to do better than her in the future. She must be bragging. Although the university you went to is also in the capital, I've never heard of it. It's just a small, run-down school. As soon as these words were spoken, the smell of gunpowder grew stronger. The carriage was originally quiet, but at this moment, many people were woken up by the noise, and more or less had some opinions. However, the girl had no intention of stopping. She snorted and continued, "I've said so much, but to you, it's like playing the lute to a cow. With your limited knowledge, you're only fit to be led by the nose in the future. You know very well what kind of place a university is. Everyone there is an elite. Even if I don't learn anything, I'll have more connections than you after I graduate." His words caused some people to whisper to each other. The 2 boys were surprised. They didn't expect such a big counterattack. Before they could speak, an old man behind them said, "Little girl, I just heard that you were the top scorer in the exam. You're quite outstanding, but can you adjust your voice a little? Because everyone is tired from the bus ride, and many of them are sleeping." Chapter 675. The old man's voice sounded a little tired, but he spoke very politely. The 2 boys on the other seats were a little embarrassed. However, the girl was still a little unhappy. "Grandpa, I wasn't the one who started it. Why didn't you uphold justice when he spoke? That child only said 1 sentence. His voice wasn't very loud. How loud can my voice be? This is a carriage, not a hotel. I don't have the responsibility to be quiet, right?" the girl said again. The old man choked. Clearly, he wasn't good at arguing. However, the auntie beside him was very fierce. She opened her mouth and said, "Young lady, do you have any manners? I was just reminding you. Who are you trying to scare by being so fierce? Look at yourself. Didn't you wake everyone in the carriage? It's fine if you don't apologize, but you actually treat it like it's nothing. Auntie, who are you? What right do you have to control me? The girl was a little angry. How could she be blamed for this? The two boys opposite her didn't have any discernment, or rather, they were deliberately looking for trouble. They could tell that she didn't want to talk to them, but they insisted on talking to her. If that was the case, why did she have to be polite? Many people looked down on the girl's actions. The girl's voice wasn't soft from the beginning. However, when she mentioned that she was the top scholar in the college entrance examination, everyone felt that she had a bright future and was more respectful and polite. However, she didn't lower her voice and her tone was a little arrogant. That was fine, but she even quarreled for no reason. However, it was understandable that the boy had a bad attitude first. However, they couldn't accept that the girl was so fierce to an old man. Immediately, someone helped the auntie and the old man shout at the girl. The girl was extremely aggrieved, but she wasn't to be outdone. She looked a little scary. When Jing Yunjiao saw the chaos, she knew that it was better to clarify things. Although quarreling wasn't a big deal, her reputation was too innocent. She stood up and was about to walk over when she saw the old man suddenly clutching his chest. The people beside him were shocked and didn't know what to do. The girl looked guilty, but she braced herself and said, Are you deliberately pretending to be sick? I didn't touch you. Don't blame me, he felt so wronged. She did pretend to be Jing Yunjiao, but she didn't do it on purpose. It was obvious that the guy opposite her mistook her for someone else. That guy was so annoying. Could it be that everyone who went to a university was Jing Yunjiao? With a flustered look on his face, he realized that he was being glared at, so he angrily returned to his seat. His hands were clutching the corners of his clothes in fear. However, when he remembered that he had used Jing Yunjiao's name, he heaved a sigh of relief. Please step aside. At this moment, a voice came from behind. Jing Yunjiao squeezed her way over and laid the old man down on the bed. She quickly took out her silver needles and pierced them into the old man's acupuncture points. The people at the side did not understand what was going on and immediately wanted to stop them. Xiao Haiqing and the other two hurriedly stopped them and explained, Yunjiao knows medical skills and is saving people now. Please give her some time. Jing Yunjiao's acupuncture was fast and accurate. After a few needles, the old man's complexion had eased. She quickly took out a bottle of medicine from her space and gave 2 pills to the old man. In order to prevent all kinds of situations from happening, she made a lot of pills according to various diseases and put them in her space. Chapter 676. Xiao Haiqing's way of addressing her made everyone feel a little strange. Yunjiao should be referring to the girl who was trying to save his life. Coincidentally, the top scorer in the front seat was also called Yunjiao. What a coincidence. After a while, the old man breathed heavily. Stop. Stop arguing. If he knew that it would cause such a big commotion, he wouldn't have reminded the little girl. Your body isn't that big of a problem, but you should try to avoid getting emotional in the future, Jing Yunjiao said. The old man was prone to problems in all aspects of his body, and he couldn't handle some big changes. Fortunately, this wasn't a serious matter, so the old man was just a little anxious and out of breath. It wasn't a big problem with his body. You are. The old man was confused. My name is Jing Yunjiao, Jing Yunjiao said again. The surroundings fell silent. The girl's heart skipped a beat, and she quickly stood up to glare at Jing Yunjiao. Jing Yunjiao? It can't be that coincidental. However, it was indeed possible because it was almost time for a university's registration. Jing Yunjiao was also from Huaning County, so it was very likely that he was sitting in the same car as her. You're Jing Yunjiao? Then she has the same name. What a coincidence. One of the boys said in surprise. It is quite a coincidence, and our family's Yunjiao is also a student of a university, and she just so happened to score 749 points, Xiao Haiqing said directly with a smile. When he said this, the meaning he wanted to express was much more obvious. Confusion and surprise flashed across the eyes of the people around them, and someone reacted quickly. That means you're the top scorer, Jing Yunjiao? Then what about her? She just said that she was the top scorer. Oh, you're a fake. You were lying to us. The girl's face was as white as a sheet. She didn't expect her luck to be so bad. A strong sense of innocence surfaced in her heart. She didn't even think of pretending to be Jing Yunjiao. It was just that others had linked her and Jing Yunjiao together. Who knew that the real thing was in the same car, and even, the seat was right next to her, just across the aisle. Everyone looked at the girl with complicated expressions. The girl was extremely flustered. But when she thought about it carefully, she realized that they were just strangers she had met by chance. There was no need to get angry over this kind of thing. She immediately straightened her scalp and said, "My name is Dao Ji. You don't need to look at me like that. From the beginning to the end, I didn't say that I was Jing Yunjiao. I only said that I was a student of University A. Besides, I'm not lying. Although my results are not as good as Jing Yunjiao's, they are not bad either." After saying those words, the surroundings fell silent. Many people thought about it, but they didn't remember hearing her introduce herself. You didn't deny it at the beginning, so although I heard it, I didn't expose you. But if I remember correctly, when you were talking to this guy, you mentioned that you were the top scorer and that it had nothing to do with them. Am I right? Jing Yunjiao stood up and spoke again. Everyone knows what the two words Zhuangyuan mean. You saying those words is equivalent to admitting that you're Jing Yunjiao. If you were just pretending to be me and chatting with others, I wouldn't have minded. However, you threw the elderly's advice to the back of your ears and even yelled and screamed. This is equivalent to bringing shame to me. Now that you've been exposed, don't tell me you still think you shouldn't apologize to me and the people around me. Chapter 677. Jing Yunjiao spoke righteously with a cold expression, making it hard for others to resist. She had always been principled when it came to dealing with people and matters. Although she had done many bad things, she would still abide by the virtue of respecting the old and loving the young in public. This old woman didn't do anything wrong, so under these circumstances, she couldn't possibly yell at her. However, Dao Ji used her name to do this, so to others, it was no different from what she did. If this spread out, the one who would be criticized would be her. Dao Ji's expression was a little ugly. She pursed her lips and bit them. After a while, she said, "I'm sorry, okay?" She really had 8 lifetimes worth of bad luck to have met this supreme one on the bus. Going to a university was clearly a good thing, but now, because of Jing Yunjiao, her beautiful journey was ruined. If she had known this would happen, she wouldn't have said that she was a student of a university in front of others. Jing Yunjiao glanced at her and snorted disdainfully. She was a little speechless towards this kind of person. She was clearly the one in the wrong, but she still acted like a victim who was forced to apologize, as if she owed her. However, since they were from the same school and the same county, Jing Yunjiao didn't want to be too serious with her. She and Xiao Haiqing went back to their seats. However, just as they returned to their seats, the boy next to them walked over with a smile. He said with a face full of surprise, "So you're Jing Yunjiao. You're so pretty. Can I take a picture with you? I'm so embarrassed that I mistook that person for you just now." Since you're embarrassed, then go back to your seat and don't disturb others. Classmate, although classmate Dao pretended to be me, it seems that it was all caused by your self-righteousness. Jing Yunjiao glared at him without giving him any face. The boy's face darkened and he opened his mouth. However, before he could speak, Jing Yunjiao said, "If you want to lecture me like how you lectured classmate Dao, then I think it's best if you don't. Everyone knows what's right and wrong. You're so aggressive just because I refuse to chat with you and take a picture with you. Your upbringing might not be good." Towards these two boys, Jing Yunjiao also didn't have a single good impression of them. His heart was filled with self-righteous flattery and he did not use his brain at all. She had just said that she was a student of a university, and he had linked it to her. It was obvious that Dao Ji was a vain person. The reason why she said she was going to a university was to show off and feel the envy of others. However, he mentioned 749 marks. No matter how good Dao Ji's grades were, she couldn't compare. It would be strange if she wasn't embarrassed. All in all, each of them had their own shortcomings. As long as it was quiet enough, she didn't want to bother with them. Why are you? Xiao Haiqing and Suchu immediately glared at the boy halfway through his sentence, causing him to choke back the rest of his words. The boy returned to his seat resentfully. He also felt the disapproving gazes around him. He suppressed his anger and kept quiet. The train sped along. Many people couldn't sleep because of the commotion. Yun Jiao, maybe this Dao Ji is in the same department as you, Suchu whispered. So what if we're in the same department? What if they're in the same class or even in the same dormitory? That's... Xiao Haiqing laughed dryly. Let's not say it. What if we jinx it? Actually, if you ask me, the possibility isn't high. The economics department of a university is famous for being a place where only the rich go, especially Yun Jiao's department. Also, I saw that classmate Dao had 2 books placed beside her. They were both about accounting, so it's basically impossible for them to meet, Gan Jinchen said. Chapter 678. Jing Yunjiao and the other 2 were stunned. Xiao Haiqing was even more surprised. Since when did you know so much about a university? It wasn't me. We met before Zihua went to X City. He told me about it. He also said that he wanted to go to a university, but unfortunately, his family's relatives and business are in X City. The environment there is also very good, so he had no choice, Gan Jinchen said. Jing Yunjiao nodded. Actually, she didn't know much about a university, but Pak Yuan was from that school. He said that the environment there was good, and it was good for all aspects. The 4 of them chatted in low voices for a while the side remained silent. Dao Ji's face was dark from head to toe, as if someone owed her a few $1 million. Unfortunately, no one cared about her now. The nearly 10-hour journey ended quickly. It was a very interesting journey, especially when they were about to reach the station. The carriage became more lively, and they could hear many people chatting. Some of them were talking about the local customs of capital city, and some were gossiping. Jing Yunjiao was excited and couldn't sleep at all. Although she didn't like crowds, it was her first time taking a train so far away from home, so she was looking forward to it. Once they reached the station, everyone took their things and got off the carriage. Jing Yunjiao only had 1 suitcase, and Xiao Haiqing and the other 2 didn't have much, so they didn't need help. However, before Jing Yunjiao turned around and left her seat, she saw that Dao Ji was so anxious that she was sweating profusely. She was carrying an oversized travel bag on her back and 2 large bags filled with all kinds of daily necessities in her hands. She looked like she was having a hard time walking. After thinking for a while, she went forward and reached out her hand. Let me help you. To be able to meet on the same train could be considered fate. The capital was not as close to home as Serene City. After arriving at the capital, he would have to live a life without any relatives or anyone to rely on. Although it was a little exaggerated, it was true that he had to rely on himself. If he could help, he would still help. No need. Me. However, although Jing Yunjiao had good intentions, the other party didn't appreciate it. She even glared at her and walked past her. Jing Yunjiao smiled in surprise. There was nothing to be disappointed about. Originally, he just wanted to do a small favor. Since the other party didn't appreciate it, then it was fine. Besides, he didn't intend to have a deep relationship with them. You're too much. You're treating my kindness as malice, aren't you? Xiao Haiqing rolled her eyes at her. All right, let's go, Jing Yunjiao said with a smile. She was not being kind. The weather was hot now, and they had taken the train in the early hours of the morning. By the time they arrived at the station, it was already around 10 o'clock. After leaving the station, they still had to take the bus to school. The trouble was just about to begin. When they were in the car, she had noticed that Dao Ji had hardly drunk any water. She was also quite agitated and had a huge temper. It would be bad if she got a heat stroke later. Since she knew that there was a possibility of heat stroke, as a doctor, she couldn't just turn a blind eye. However, Looking at the girl's appearance, her body was quite strong. The four of them left the station and found a place to eat something to cool down. However, when they entered the restaurant, they met Dao Ji again. She raised her head and looked at the restaurant. Then, she looked disgusted, as if the four of them had done something unforgivable. The four of them were already used to this girl's reaction. After eating and drinking to their fill, they went their separate ways. The four of them went to 4 different schools. Naturally, it was impossible for them to go the same way. Fortunately, it wasn't too far away. In the future, they could still meet up every week. Of course, Gan Jinchen chose the military school. Chapter 679. Going from the original group of 4 to going to school by herself, Jing Yunjiao suddenly felt that there was no one around her. It was indeed a little lonely. While she was on the way, Li Xiaoyun called to express his concern. After the college entrance exam, Li Xiaoyun had already resigned from the school and returned to the capital earlier than her. She didn't tell him that she was coming to school today. It seemed like Du Lin had told him. A university had 100 years of history. This university covered a large area, and it didn't include the other faculties. She only knew that when the results were released, there was a teacher from a university who went to look for her, but she stood him up. When she applied for this university, she heard that the teacher who didn't have any hope was so shocked that he couldn't close his mouth. Jing Yunjiao had done some work before coming here. Even if she was alone, she found a place very smoothly. At this time, the school was already bustling with noise and excitement. After finding the place to report, Jing Yunjiao began to look for her dormitory. She originally planned to buy a house in the capital, but unfortunately, Old Man Shu wasn't around and there was no one else around. When the time came, she would be lonely living outside, so she chose to live in the school dormitory. There were 3 types of dormitories: the normal 8-person dormitory, 6-person dormitory, and 4-person dormitory. The latter was more expensive, but Jing Yunjiao still chose the 4-person dormitory. After all, she didn't like crowds. When there were more people, there would be more friction and unnecessary trouble would be a headache. Carrying her suitcase, Jing Yunjiao pushed open the door. A university's environment was good. The dormitory wasn't small, and the decorations inside were fresh and simple. There were 4 bunk beds. The upper bunk was for resting, and the lower bunk was for an exquisite integrated cabinet that could store some clothes and books. There were also tables and chairs provided. The dormitory also had its own bathroom and bathroom. Overall, it was not bad. The 6-person dormitory and 8-person dormitory were not like this. However, there were many people in the room at this time. Aya, baby, it's going to be hard on you. This room is so hot, how can we live in it? Really, how can such a good school not have a single dormitory? It's not like we can't afford it. A woman chattered. As she spoke, she helped her daughter pack her things. However, the mother and daughter were in a flurry. The more they sorted, the messier it became. It was obvious that they didn't do any chores at all. If I had known this would happen, I would have brought Sister Wang here. How can we pack up all these things? She's really skilled. The woman said again. Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched. This didn't seem to be a matter of dexterity, but a basic skill in life. Jing Yunjiao sighed and walked in. Once there was movement, the few of them turned their heads and looked over. Their eyes lit up. After all, such a beautiful girl was rare. Aya, little girl, you're also from this school? What's your name? The woman asked with a warm expression. Hello, Auntie. My name is Jing Yunjiao, Jing Yunjiao said politely. This name was the most famous in Ning County. However, every province had a top scholar, so it wasn't rare outside. No one cared at all. Not bad, not bad. This is my daughter, Bao. I'll have to trouble you to take care of her in the future. Here, this is Auntie's gift to you. Your roommate has already accepted it, so you should accept it too. As she spoke, she took out an exquisite bag. It took a full hour for baby Yarrow's mother to completely leave. A second ago, baby Yarrow was crying so hard that she couldn't catch her breath. But when Mother Yarrow left, she ran to the balcony to make sure that Mother Yarrow had left. Suddenly, she laughed out loud. That's great. I can finally live on my own in the future, and I don't have to be controlled by my parents anymore. A few black lines appeared on Jing Yunjiao's forehead. From the looks of it, was that parting look just now all an act? With her acting skills, it was a pity that she didn't go to the same school as Xiao Haiqing. Otherwise, she would definitely win a Best Actress award in the future. Baby Yarrow climbed onto the bed and rolled around a few times. Fortunately, the bed was small, so her movements weren't too big. Otherwise, others would really think that she had gone crazy. Chapter 681. In comparison, Ren Xingyue was much calmer. She held her laptop and started typing away as if there was no one around. Why do you guys think Hu Tianxian isn't here yet? After a while, Yarrow Baobao finally calmed down. She stuck her head out of the bed curtain and asked, Hu Tianxian? Jing Yunjiao was stunned. Who was that? It's the remaining roommate. It's written on the bed. Her name is Hu Tianxian. Yarrow Baobao explained. Jing Yunjiao felt as if there were crows flying around the room. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She felt that her roommates were somewhat unique. Hu Tianxian. Her parents must be very proud of their daughter's looks. That's why they gave her this name, right? Jing Yunjiao sighed. She held her book and started reading. It seemed that her life in the future would definitely be exciting. This baby Yarrow had a lively personality at first glance. She was noisy and knew how to act cute and coquettish. Ren Xingyue looked cool and probably liked peace and quiet. As for this celestial immortal Hua, Jing Yunjiao was thinking when a bang-bang sound came from the dormitory. The three of them turned their heads to look. They didn't see a face. They only saw various bags of goods squeezing through the door. After entering the room, with a hua sound, everything fell to the ground. Only then did they see a girl with shoulder-length hair. This girl was wearing a pair of small sandals, a floral short skirt, and an exquisite necklace around her neck. After throwing everything on the ground, she sighed. She flicked her hair and looked at the air conditioner. She frowned. No wonder it's so hot. Are you all robots? Can't you feel it? As she spoke, she turned on the air conditioner. Not all dormitories in this school had air conditioners. Even if they did, there was a limit to the electricity consumption. That was why they were saving it so that they could sleep better at night. Feeling the cool breeze, the girl glanced at everyone and said, "What are you all standing there for? These are the gifts I specially picked out today. There are clothes, bags, mobile phones, laptops, and jewelry. You can choose whatever you like. Oh, I forgot to tell you. My name is Hu Tianxian, and I'm a Virgo. We'll be living in the same dorm from now on. Let me know if you need any help." After saying that, he glanced at his bed. Obviously, he was not very satisfied with the position. He took a deep breath and tidied up the things in the two suitcases. Jing Yunjiao felt a headache coming on. These three people would be the closest to her in the future. Hu Tianxian made a lot of noise as she packed her things. The room was quiet. When she was done, there was still a pile of gifts on the ground. She frowned. "What's wrong? None of you like it." "That. My mom sent me a lot of things, so there's no need." Yarrow Baobao was shocked by Hu Tianxian's imposing manner and said with a timid expression, "I don't like those things." Ren Xingyue was even more straightforward. Hu Tianxian turned to look at Jing Yunjiao and said, "You have the least things on your bed and table. You should be able to use them, right?" "Thank you, but I don't need them either." Jing Yunjiao was still considered polite. Hu Tianxian smiled arrogantly. "Is that so? Since no one likes them, I have no use for them anyway, so I'll just throw them away." Hu Tianxian was still smiling. Without another word, she picked up the things and threw them off the balcony. "The dorm is on the 5th floor. If it hits someone, it'll be very..." Yarrow Baobao was halfway through her sentence when she heard a scream from below. Chapter 682. The three of them couldn't help but glance at Yarrow Baobao when they heard her scream. Yarrow Baobao hurriedly shrank her head back. I don't know how to predict. I just feel that throwing things from high up in the air isn't good. I know it's not good, but there's nowhere to put it. Hu Tianxian sighed. She tied her hair up casually and opened the door to go downstairs. Jing Yunjiao and the other two helplessly followed to take a look. Downstairs, a girl was lying on the ground. Bags and her luggage were scattered all over the floor. Jing Yunjiao sweated when he saw her face. It was indeed a small world. Hu Tianxian could have hit anyone, but it just had to hit Dao Ji. What's wrong? Ren Xingyue asked when she saw Jing Yunjiao frown. Jing Yunjiao shook his head. Actually, the thing didn't hit anyone. It looked like Dao Ji had dodged it. However, she had fallen and scraped her hand when she dodged it. Hu Tianxian had a fiery and flamboyant personality. After she walked over, she looked at Dao Ji and asked, "How are you? Are you okay? If you're hurt, I'll send you to the hospital." Dao Ji suppressed a belly full of anger. She had bumped into Jing Yunjiao on the bus and was humiliated. However, who would have thought that when she finally arrived at the school and was about to reach the dormitory building, another unexpected disaster would come flying at her. She really didn't check the almanac before she left home. That was why she was so unlucky. Do you think I'm okay? Don't you know that throwing things like that can kill someone? Dao Ji yelled angrily. She then saw Jing Yunjiao behind Hu Tianxian and became even angrier. Jing Yunjiao, you made her throw it on purpose, didn't you? I already apologized to you in the car. Do you have to hold on to someone else's weakness and not let it go? If something happened to me, can you bear the responsibility? As soon as she said this, the other three looked at Jing Yunjiao in astonishment. Hu Tianxian's lips twitched. Do you know each other? You could say that. We came from the same county. We bumped into each other on the train and had some friction, Jing Yunjiao said. Is that so? Hu Tianxian was a little surprised. She thought that the people in their dormitory were from good families because this dormitory was indeed a little expensive. Ordinary families would probably choose a 6-person or 8-person dormitory. Of course, it wasn't ridiculously expensive. The most important thing was Jing Yunjiao's temperament. When she entered the dormitory, with just a glance, she knew that baby Yarrow was definitely a rich family's daughter. This was because everything she wore was branded, and the things she used were also expensive. Ren Xingyu was a little worse, but it was still not bad. She could be considered to be inferior to the best, but superior to the worst. As for this Jing Yunjiao, she couldn't understand her the most. The things he used were ordinary, but he had a certain temperament. The things she bought and the things she used weren't things that normal people could afford. Logically speaking, Jing Yunjiao should have taken a few more glances at them, but from start to finish, she wasn't the least bit interested. Thus, she guessed that Jing Yunjiao was probably a self-disciplined rich young miss. She didn't expect him to be from the county. I was the one who threw the things. Why are you pointing fingers at others? I, Hu Tianxian, have always been responsible for my own actions. Hu Tianxian snorted softly. As she spoke, she glanced at the things on the ground. It's my fault for throwing them at you. I apologize to you. I'm sorry. Also, take these things as a gift from me. Why do we need the police if apologies are useful? Dao Ji said angrily. She didn't want these lousy things. So you don't accept my apologies. Fine. Call the police and get someone to arrest me. I'll give you my parents' numbers. Maybe you'll be lucky and get them to come over. However, I can't guarantee that they'll treat you better than I do, Hu Tianxian said again. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.